Preseason 2015 officially ended here in Washington on Thursday with a 1-point loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was the final chance for a handful of players still on the cusp of making this team to show their worth. Those cuts are still trickling in, but this morning it was announced that safety and special teams standout Akeem Davis, who is working towards an injury settlement with the team, running back Trey Williams, and this year's 7th-round draft pick Austin Ryder will no longer be with the Redskins, among others. Many predicted the Redskins would part ways with oft-injured quarterback Robert Griffin III before the season started. However, reports today suggest he'll remain on the roster as the team's second-string option. We're just 8 days from the regular season, so don't go anywhere. The Hogstie's up next with your game recap and roster breakdown. And stick around after because we have a huge interview that we're really, really excited about. It's our biggest get so far. It's all coming up next after the break.
It's the Hogstie.
Okay, so here we go. Game recap for the Jaguars game. My name's Sean Conti. Glad to be here with you guys again today. I'm here with Alex Zeese.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And Steve Thomas.
What's up, everybody?
And, we wanted to just give a little note here at the beginning. Kelly has not been with us for the last few episodes, and we just wanted to say out front that Kelly has decided to move on from the Hogstie and pursue other interests for the time being. So we may see Kelly back in the future as a contributor in some capacity, but just wanted to say that out front. And, Kelly, we wish you the best. So, guys, let's get into the game recap. Let's talk about the Jaguars. Now, I don't know about you, but it looked like the same amount of people that listened to our show were actually at the game.
Oh, I think it was even less than that. You couldn't have even filled a full section of the stadium with what was there.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, so bad.
It's the fourth game coupled with the fact that we played a terrible team. Jacksonville was just god-awful, I thought. Their second string or whatever they were should not have posed much of a challenge for our guys, even though they did, sadly enough.
Exactly. Maybe we should start by just talking a little bit about Colt McCoy. Obviously, that's going to be a major thing on people's minds, especially with the reports today saying that Griffin will remain on the team as the second-string option. What'd you see out of McCoy through this game, through the whole preseason now that it's over? And what do you think about this roster here we've got for me?
I thought Colt McCoy was the same Colt McCoy that we've seen throughout his entire tenure here. He makes some good plays. He knows how to run the offense. He's fairly athletic. We saw him escape, at least on one particular play, in one or two.
He's very escapable.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's got enough athletic. He's no Robert Griffin when it comes to athleticism, but he has enough athleticism inside him to be able to escape in a way that some other quarterbacks can't. I think nothing has changed in my eyes from Colt McCoy. He's okay. He's a good backup, and he's going to stay that way.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there. I mean, he is exactly what you want in a backup. He knows the offense. He knows where to go with the ball almost every pass, and he doesn't wow you. He's not gonna make any big play. I mean, we saw him try to go deep a few times, and that ball just kind of died midair.
Right,
to Rashad Ross.
Yeah.
Ross had a great game there, but there were probably 2 or 3 deep balls there to him that just he couldn't get to because McCoy doesn't have the arm for it.
Sure. And we got to talk about Ross, too. I definitely want to talk about him because he's one of my preseason standouts. But what do you guys think about the fact that this announcement has been made, or I guess sources have leaked the fact that Griffin's going to be the second string ahead of McCoy? Because it seems to me like McCoy's had a couple great stiff arms in the previous game. He's really escapable. Griffin's tends, to run into sacks. Well, were you surprised at all by that?
Well, first of all, I thought I saw a different announcement. The announcement I thought I saw was that McCoy had been named number 2. And that the team had announced told the press merely that they were going to keep Griffin on the roster. That's what I saw. So I think we had to clear that up.
I saw that from Schefter, the exact same thing. McCoy's the 2, Robert's the 3.
Yeah,
well, there you go.
And I think that probably has much more to do with Robert's contract and injury status more than anything else. I mean, he's physically not allowed to play, first of all, right now, so we have no choice but as of this moment to name McCoy the number 2, whether anybody wants him to be or not, because Griffin still hasn't been cleared by the never-ending drama that is the concussion protocol stuff. Because did you all see that the doctor that evaluated Griffin has now resigned and will no longer work from the NFL? Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
We leave a trail of bodies in our wake wherever
we
go.
We do. And for those of you who can't see me, which is everybody but Alex and Sean, I'm wearing my Griffin jersey today for the broadcast, just in honor of his presumed passing from the team at some point.
Yeah.
You know, look, McCoy will do fine as the number 2. I think in some ways he's better than Kirk Cousins in many respects. So no problem there. And I can understand if the team is done with Griffin, you know, okay, put him third string. I just kind of think they're making a mistake by being done with Griffin. But that's another discussion.
Yeah, I mean, that's another discussion. We've gone into it 1,000 times. I mean, I don't know. I think the thing that confuses me is if Griffin's going to remain on the team, it almost doesn't make sense. And I know we promised ourselves we wouldn't get locked into another long conversation about Griffin, but why keep him on the team as the third-string quarterback where he could potentially get hurt and you're on the hook for all that money? If you're going to, third string him, why not just cut him?
Well, the first and most important,
that's kind of where I'm at.
The first and most important thing is they can't cut him while he's not healthy. So
but they got one more week, and then, I mean, do you predict that they'll cut him then? Or
I don't know what to predict, man. Honestly, I don't think anybody can predict what this team is going to do about anything at this point anymore. The logical play is what you're saying, Sean. Clearly, I mean, if the team truly is done with Griffin, cut him, get rid of him, move on. I mean, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, well, let me tell you guys a little story. I was just going down. I walked down to the wing place by my house. It's a little 8-block walk. I was wearing a Redskins hat at the time, and no less than 3 people stopped me, strangers on the street, and asked me what I think they should do to Griffin. And this isn't like the Hogs tie suddenly getting known. And, none of these people know us, but they just saw the hat, and they wanted to ask, what did we do? And every single one of them seemed to agree that we should get rid of Griffin, that keeping him is just a distraction. It's really a shame in a way that it has to end this way, but if it doesn't go well, it's going to go poorly, and this is about as poor as it gets.
I also think that it's better for Griffin. If I were Robert Griffin, I'd want to leave, too, and start over.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think we talked about that last week, that if I were in his shoes, I would be talking to McLuhan and Bruce Allen about finding a way to get off the team, amicably as possible. But
I don't think he's going to cause problems, when he's here, because he just isn't the type of guy that's going to do that. If it were up to me, I think he ought to start, this year over Cousins. But that's me. I know I'm in the minority. But if they're done with him, just for God's sakes, kill it and move on. Put the thing out.
I think that press conference he gave after the concussion really kind of said that he was done with them more than anything.
Yeah, it showed an attitude problem at the very least.
That
you thought?
The words, I just work here, that's like a signal of death for a quarterback.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think personally they've kind of done him wrong for 2 years now.
Oh, yeah.
Despite what,
a lot of things have gone wrong.
Despite what some people think, I think a lot of things have gone wrong. What has happened to Robert Griffin is not all Robert Griffin's fault, despite certain people, and you know who you are, who want to blame everything on him. Certainly he has not progressed in a way that we would have hoped, but there's been a lot of things that have gone into that have been beyond his control, despite what some people think.
Yeah. I think everybody can pretty much acknowledge that the Redskins had their hand in stunting his growth, but that's neither here nor there at this point. These two guys are running the offense better than he is, so I have to predict that they're going to cut ties soon, which I think is for the best. I've kind of had a come to Jesus moment with Griffin recently, if you haven't noticed that. But anyways,
I think we've all had to.
Yeah, we've all kind of had to accept reality. But anyways, let's get out of that. Let's talk a little bit more about the Jags game. So I wanted to ask you guys how we got thrashed so bad by the Jaguars offense. But before we do that, shout out to my man Rashad Ross, because once again he had a great game. It was his 4th touchdown of the preseason. This one was beautiful, I thought, because he was like triple covered and he managed to just dance his way in there. So I thought that was beautiful. What'd you guys think?
Well, let me just say, you guys may remember after the first week of preseason, I kind of said that as nice as Ross has looked, it's still preseason and it's not wowing me. I've come around. I'm all in on this guy. Let's put him on as the 6th wide receiver, get him in some situations where he can really make some plays. He's not going to be an every down guy. I think we have a lot of depth that he would have to cut through for that, but you definitely have a guy who you could situationally get the ball to 1 or 2 times a game and just see what he does.
Yeah, I think he looks like an NFL receiver, first and foremost, and most importantly. He looked like a man among boys out there against the Jaguar scrubs. That was the touchdown play, like you said, Sean, I thought was great. He was elusive. Yeah. He evaded, at least 3 Jaguars and then kind of made a diving backflip sort of deal, somersault kind of thing into the end zone. So that was great. I'm always a little bit leery of carrying 6 wide receivers just because unless somebody gets hurt, the 6th guy is never going to play pretty much ever.
Yeah.
Because we're never going to have 6 wide receivers on the field at one time. Mm-hmm. So there's that. And, I remember we had the one year where, was it Zorn? I forget who it was that carried 7 wide receivers all year. It wasn't Zorn. Yeah, and that's just way too many. We cut Reggie Bell, who was had a great preseason on his own. And I think it says something. We finally have some depth on the wide receiver core. Yeah. Thank God.
Well, and I will say, watching him play, and again, we're not talking about against starters here, but it reminds me a lot of Moss when he was first here in his prime. Not, old man Moss that we had for the past 4 years where he couldn't quite do what he used to, but I saw a guy who was getting into space and then getting a lot of yards after the catch, which is what Moss, to me, that was his real skill when he was in his prime years as a Redskin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was sitting here trying to think of who a good comparison to Ross is, and Moss is a pretty good one, I think. Ross doesn't have Moss's top end speed. Very few did.
No,
not at all. But in the respect that he's kind of a scrapper, and he gets in there and he figures out how to make the catch. That's a hallmark of a good wide receiver. Somehow, some way, the guy's going to come down with the ball, and Ross does that very well. So, yeah, I think that's not a bad comparison. He's taller than Moss, obviously. Not as fast.
Well, yeah. Santana Moss, they always said was, 5'10", but you always heard rumors that he was more like 5'8".
Oh, yeah, they pad those stats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. He's really stood out to me. A couple other guys have, too. But what else did you guys see on offense? So we saw our first failed 2-point conversion, I noticed. What else did you guys see from the offense of this game? Anything stand out?
I didn't care about
that two-pointer.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a reason you go for that. You don't want a tie game in the 4th preseason game.
Right.
So going for
just
2
get off
there,
the field.
It's more about making sure you don't have to play another 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Sure, you would have liked that to come through, though.
Well, we don't. We always root for the Redskins to score points, but I think Alex,
sure.
Another 15 minutes, given the injuries we've suffered, would have been something of a disaster. So, no, thank you. It's kind of embarrassing to lose to the Jaguars, but we've had a bunch
did something right.
One of the things I wanted to point out about the offense was Chris Thompson. He looked really strong. He's looked really strong all preseason. I had kind of written him off in my head a little bit, because he just didn't look like an NFL running back. He never has, except this year. And he was one of the guys against the Jaguars I thought was sort of a man amongst boys in terms of NFL player, not NFL player. He looked really good, and he had to come back in the game. Remember when was it Williams went out with the ankle problem?
I think that happened multiple times,
yeah.
Right? We had multiple injuries to our running backs.
Yeah, it did. So I think Chris Thompson is one to point out. What do you guys think?
I think he did good. I don't know how much playing time he'll see in terms of running the ball in the regular season. I feel like
maybe not running the ball.
We have our 1-2 more or less set, and the third guy is only going to be there for emergencies and maybe situationally as a blocker, but
and he'll be in there on the third down some because he can catch the ball. Can't you see him on the bubble screen? On the outside, doing one of those. So, I think we'd be remiss in pointing out that Ty Nsekhe had a decent game. I thought we don't have Robbie here today.
Robbie would kill us if we did.
Yeah, I know because it seems like the national media, the local beat reporters rather are kind of ignoring Ty Nsekhe. It seems like Robbie is the one that's carrying the flag for this guy.
I think they're starting to pick up on it a little.
Yeah.
I think mainly because Robbie's been badgering so many people from the Washington Post about him on Twitter that maybe they're finally paying attention.
I've read his name a couple places.
Well, let's just go out and say this. The Hogsty is responsible for Ty Nsekhe's retention on the team if it happens.
Right. So Ty Nsekhe really needs to give us some of his rookie salary to
there you go.
Offset some of our costs.
Of course
or at least become a new permanent fixture on the show.
There we go.
Yeah, I'll take either or.
I'll say on Nsekhe, there was that one screen pass where he got upfield and took down 2 defensive backs And, it was kind of like watching Trent Williams play a little bit. Not exactly, of course, because you don't want to make that comparison outright, but the ability for a big guy like that to get downfield is always something special.
Oh, yeah.
And the inverse of that, Chris Long, or not
Spencer
Chris Long.
Long.
Sorry.
Spencer
Long.
Totally blew
Yes.
it on that one screen, the block on the screen pass against the Jags.
He blew it on a couple plays.
Yeah.
He was getting pushed back like Chris Chester was last year for us. So
I wonder. It makes me wonder if Spencer Long is not as solid on this team as we thought. He didn't get drafted by this staff. He didn't. On Nasecki, I think Naseki's only problem is he's 29 years old. He's not going to have a 10-year career with us here or anywhere.
Sure.
He's bounced around quite a bit, over the past 5 years. So if we can get, moving forward, getting a few years out of that guy, I think we've done well.
Yeah, 3-4 years as a backup for us, that's a win.
Absolutely.
And the other thing on offense, I think we mentioned, noticed that Derek Carrier made a few plays, at least in the passing game, so that bodes well. We don't have a blocking tight end on the roster. The team cut DJ Williams and Ham both. I think Ham may be a practice squad candidate according to the beat writers. So as of right now, we're going with 2 tight ends, neither of which can block worth a darn.
Yeah. I like Ham's potential, but he's probably not ready for the big game. Practice squad for a year, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I will continue to see Carrier because we have no real other option. But I was kind of surprised by that Ham cut. I want to ask you guys more about cuts in a little bit here.
Okay.
Sure.
But if we're ready to move on from offense, which I am, anybody else got any concluding thoughts on the offense in this game?
No.
Let's
not really.
Let's talk about defense and what I saw as kind of tragic play for at least the beginning part of that game last night. Looks like we were getting really thrashed through the air and on the ground. So what was going on there? I mean, I couldn't really make sense of it. It looked kind of like Hazlitt's defense where guys were totally out of position or just getting burned, particularly Amerson there.
Yeah, I think so, and I think we're darn lucky that Morris quarterback for the Jaguars kind of stunk and consistently overthrew and was off target with a lot of his throws. And as a matter of fact, I think the Jaguars cut him after that game, so that tells you something.
He's a free agent now, and he probably will be all year.
Yeah.
First of all,
they were clearly using that game to gauge him because he played the whole game. I think.
The first thing I'd point out about the defense is that I thought D'Angelo Hall looked pretty good in the couple series he was in. I paid attention to him on a couple plays and noticed that he was, it looked like he had his athleticism back. He kept up with the receivers. One particular play, the quarterback Morris rolled out, looked dead at him, stared him down, realized that the receiver was covered and had to, didn't go his way. So I'm encouraged about I was a little worried that he was playing at all. Because I mentioned on the last week's episode that if he played, that may mean that the team is concerned about his status, but obviously that wasn't the case, and he's doing well. And then the other thing is Breland was out there. Didn't look very good. I didn't think he missed a couple plays.
He did.
He was only out there for like 4 or 5 plays. It seemed.
Yeah, and it seemed like he missed
enough to make a mistake.
Yeah. So that was that. In terms of the the front seven, I don't know. It's hard to take too much away from it since we were playing with none of our starters. Did they look good? No. Right. Did they get to the quarterback? No. Did they do much? Not really. Did that Grant running back gouge them? Yes. But I'm not going to get too worked up over it since it was the 4th preseason
To me, that's on the linebackers more than on the defensive line. Your inside linebackers have to get the running back at the second level.
Yeah, they do, and they didn't in many cases, but
and that's why they've all been cut.
Well, yeah, because I asked Robbie last episode if he thought Houston Bates was going to make it, and he said he was, in his opinion. And then I noticed in our official 53-man prediction we posted on the blog, he wasn't. What I saw in Bates is, Bates missed at least one play in the second level that you were talking about, if not 2.
And then Sage Harold, I think, was the other guy who missed that other big one.
Yeah, and Sage is gone.
Wasn't he?
I think it was Sage Harold, and he's gone too. This was the first game of the 4 preseason games where our 2s kind of got outplayed, I thought, defensively. That hadn't really happened.
Well, let's be honest. A lot of these are threes in this game.
Yeah, but so was Jacksonville.
Yeah, but there was a lot. There were a lot of twos in there too.
Yeah, there were.
I agree. It seemed like we couldn't get much pressure on the quarterback. That hasn't been a problem through most of preseason.
Well,
I think
it
we've
has,
got like
though.
over 10 sacks, right?
Yeah, but
we've got over like 10 sacks.
None of them have came
the
with the first stringers, though. I don't think our first stringers.
No, I
got
know.
any
Our
sacks.
first stringers have played terrible all preseason. People get excited by that 3-1 record. No, the first string got beat like 20-10 if you look at the scoring sheets. Mm-hmm. And the second touchdown doesn't count against the Ravens. The Ravens pulled their starters. People need to get over that.
People need to chill about the record too, because we seem to always have a winning record in the preseason, and that gets us about. Now, I saw a stat, and I should have copied it down, but I didn't. But it was our preseason record for about the last 10 years, and I think we only had maybe one losing record in preseason that entire time, and I think we all know where we've ended up over the past 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. People seem to love to talk about that, and even the Redskins' official Facebook page feed was hyping, we could be 4-0 preseason before the game. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Well, look at we don't we were honest to goodness out of the race last season before the end of September. It's the only time the team wins on any sort of consistent basis is the preseason. I do think it's dumb that they hype that. But, if you have as backwards and mixed up a PR staff as we do, I can see him trying to do it,
Yeah. Worst PR team in football, I think, at this point.
Oh, it's just awful. God awful.
They've got one of the hardest jobs in terms of PR teams for football teams, though.
Wait. I'm not going to let you off the hook for that, Sean. Go ahead and tell us what you mean by our hardest job.
I mean, come on. You want to work PR for the Washington Redskins? I can't think of a more horrible job to have. I mean, whether or not you agree with it, you have to at least accept that the Redskins are not looked well upon by the rest of society at large.
No,
you have an owner who's called the most hated person in sports.
A team name that's. Yep.
I know you disagree with it, but the name controversy is a PR nightmare for any PR person.
Oh yeah,
yes.
It's part of the reason we always look like a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then Tony Wiley's a horse's ass.
No means no. That quote is going to live in infamy. The Washington Post published a chart, I believe, Thursday, that identified all the owners in the NFL by their
sphere of influence.
Yeah, by their sphere of influence. And I'm not going to quote them all because I can't remember, but the inner circle were the ones you might think. It was Robert Kraft, John Mara, the Steelers, the Rooneys, there were a couple of them.
Yep.
And if, anybody in the audience wants to guess as to where our very own Daniel Snyder is, I'll give you 2 seconds. Think about it. 1, 2. Okay, he was in the very bottom rung as one of the least influential owners in the league, and they called him antagonistic.
They called him one of the. Yeah, I think they even said he's the least owner amongst owners.
And I believe they said
when the owners get together, he sits at the children's table.
I believe they said he was antagonistic and conceited or combative or something like that. So that's what we have to deal with.
I mean, at least opinion about the Redskins is consistent. We are consistently looked at as the biggest joke franchise in this league.
Mm-hmm.
But
one of a couple, yeah, certainly. The Browns do no one any favors either.
That's true too.
No. I mean, their owner, for God's sakes, is being investigated for criminal, fraud and corruption, charges. So at least we don't have that.
The Vikings had that happen a couple years ago too, didn't he?
Yes. So it could be worse, maybe.
Yeah, at least Snyder's corrupt behavior is right there on the table in front of you. It's not hidden. It's not.
Well, Snyder isn't even corrupt.
In the background.
It's not corrupt. It's just bad.
It's just fucked up.
It's just bad leadership.
Yeah.
He's a bad person.
He's just a bad person.
So all Redskins front office staff, please feel free to come on the Hog Sty because we love to interview.
Yes, please do. Please do. We'd love to have you, Dan.
Well, I love Bruce Allen, and I love McLuhan. They seem like decent people.
Bruce Allen's a joke too, though.
Bruce Allen is a good front office exec. He's just what he can't do is what he said he owned last year. Remember when Shanahan left, and in the presser that talked about that. Allen said, they asked Allen, okay, who's going to be in charge of personnel? And Bruce Allen owned that and said, it's on me. And
Right.
and he ended up having to fire himself because he just stinks at that. But he is a good.
At least he fired himself.
Yeah, he did. At least he fired himself. But he is a good front office exec. He's political because he's got his family political connections. He knows the NFL. He knows the salary cap. And he knows how to do the community service, the Harvest Fest type things. He's good at that.
He got us out of the cap hell that Vinny Serrato had us in for 10 years.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Where every year we had to restructure 5 contracts to get under the salary cap before free agency.
Yeah, I mean, so I will bash Allen as much as anybody when it comes to his personnel acumen because he has none. And
Exactly.
just as an aside, why in the heck was he in the booth last year? Trying to help do instant replay, just crazy. But
I think they had a plan that must have not gone right, and they were just scrambling all last season. I kind of wonder if they were trying to get McLuhan last year and it just fell through.
that may have been the case. Yeah, that may have been the case. Don't know. But I didn't mean to get sidetracked. Where were we before I went on that?
Well, I mean, let's finish up game thoughts. I definitely want to ask you guys about cuts, but any other general thoughts about the game? I mean, I noticed the time of possession was extremely one-sided in that Jaguars game. I think we had the ball for like 20 more minutes than they did throughout the game. And part of that's because I think they had a number of huge plays that moved them up the field real quick, but it was still great to see the time of possession.
Well, we're going to have that because we're a running team, and we're going to be a running team. No matter what. The hero of the Insider blog, Kirk Cousins, does. We're going to be a running team, and so we're going to have the time of possession. The trick is we need to convert on those possessions. That is the trick, and we haven't done that for a couple of years now. Hopefully, it'll.
We
start
have had
now.
red zone deficiencies for a while.
I will say this: I went back this morning because I'm a glutton for punishment, and I watched the first string offense in the Cleveland preseason game and in the Lions preseason game again. And what I noticed in the Cleveland game, especially, is we were running the first string offense was running the ball pretty darn well. Between Morris and Jones, they were really moving the ball, and Griffin looked good in that game and everything. But in terms of the rushing game, it wasn't really till the Lions game that the running game started clamping down. But look at who the Lions threw out there. They were the number 2 defense in the league last year. So
they were stout.
Yeah, and the Jag game doesn't count, of course, for that. So maybe the rushing game is going to be better than we kind of saw.
Well, I think, and I'd have to go back and look at the numbers for that game versus the Jaguars, but I think the numbers of pass-to-run ratios and little things like that, that's probably what we can expect more of out of the offense this year. If Jay Gruden doesn't get too pass-happy or we don't start losing games by 20 points after the first quarter, that is, there's going to be those times where, he'll just abandon the run altogether because he needs to score.
That's right.
Yeah, I for the audience out there who has asked, and some of you have, I have not forgotten about the part 2 of my promised Jay Gruden blog post about my, so what's the deal with Jay Gruden, really? We're kind of working on it and trying to reshape it a little bit. But I did do some research into his pass-to-run ratios for his offenses. And the 2014 Redskins actually passed more and ran less than did any of those Bengals teams, despite the fact that we had the best running back Jay Gruden's ever had.
Right. But he also had the worst defense with the Redskins than
frequently
any
in
of
a
those
hole.
Bengals teams.
Yeah, there's other factors that go into it, of course, but that kind of stuck out.
Because to me, I think the largest reason for him passing so much last year was he was down multiple scores after the half.
That's true, but you did have that game, at least one game last year, where the running game was really good through the first half, and he came out and ran the ball like 4 times.
It was the Houston game. It was
half.
the first game of the season. It was the Houston game. I was there.
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's a point to be made there that he gets away from the run probably a little too soon sometimes.
I think it's his AFL roots. I think you in your first draft you mentioned that, Steve. He's got AFL syndrome.
Yeah, he does.
And he's a quarterback.
The AFL. I don't watch a lot of AFL football. I may catch a little bit of here and there if I stumble on it, but I'm by no means am I very well versed on AFL. I didn't realize that how much of a passing league it is. They're like an 80% passing, 20% rushing kind of league. They always have been from the stats I saw. That's
what they are now, even. And I was watching a lot of AFL back when he was coaching in it. Because I don't know why. I had a lot of free time in college. But, yeah, back then, if you ran the ball more than 3 times a game, you were considered a run-heavy offense.
And that's his roots, and I get it.
Yeah.
But the NFL is a little different league. Look, I mean, I think we're going to be. I think he's hopefully learned his lesson and learned that we need to be a rushing team. When you have Alfred Morris and we have what we hope Matt Jones is going to be, you need to give them the ball and give them the ball a lot. They need to rush the ball like 25, 30 times a game, I think.
Well, he said it at least in press conferences that's what he wants to go to.
Well, he said it last year too, and he didn't do it.
Yeah, that's true.
Jay Gruden has said a lot of things that he didn't mean in press conferences. He said an awful lot of things that didn't happen, or he didn't do. And I'm not gonna stop bashing him. It's the opening week.
Yeah.
I hope he does well. I'll shut up.
Yeah, start bashing him again and
I'll wait till
4.
after the Miami game.
There you go.
Is anyone else kind of feeling worse and worse about the Miami game? By the way, at this point,
I am. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I don't have a tremendous amount of confidence. I don't, mostly I just don't really know what to expect. I think I think we need to sign another tight end. I'm pretty much locked in. I've accepted Kirk as the quarterback. I think he's gonna do okay. It's just gonna be a matter of limiting turnovers. If we can do that, I think we have a great shot to win. I think that stands for most games out of the year. It's just that huge question mark of whether or not we'll be able to do that. That paired with the fact that we've had some defensive deficiencies, I think we saw a continuation of that in this Jaguars game. There's concern there.
Yeah, and we'll do our game preview, episode in a couple days here. But
well, we have a week.
Well, yeah, we do. We have a whole week. Yeah. Well, we will do a game preview episode, folks. Is my point. But yeah, the defensive front seven of Miami worries me a lot.
Oh yeah,
we've got Ndamukong Suh lined up over Morgan Moses and Brandon Scherf. That's not a recipe for good, generally speaking.
No. Kirk's going to really have to have his pocket awareness on point for that game.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping we see a lot of Young in there to help block for it.
Yeah, too. That's a good call. We haven't talked much about him. I mean, there's not much to say. He hasn't seen a huge amount of preseason playing. Yeah, exactly.
And he's a fullback. I mean, what are you going to say?
Yeah, but we love him. We love him here.
He hadn't got a lot of playing time.
I love fullbacks.
He hadn't got a lot of playing time, though.
Yeah.
No, but you always tend to see him during the regular season, so I'm looking forward to that.
He's so Darrell Young is such a great story. I don't think he gets enough credit, to some parts of the fan base. Mm-hmm. He was an undrafted free agent linebacker, remember? And out of Nova, and I remember him telling a story about him walking into the linebackers meeting room for his first day of practice, and they didn't know who he was, and his name wasn't even on the board, And he's gone from that to a guy who, in my opinion, belonged in the Pro Bowl last year as a fullback, and he's a special teams warrior. He is really everything that you hope to have when you bring in an undrafted free agent. Look at what he's turned into.
We had a run of good fullbacks on this team, and
Mike Sellers.
There haven't been many positions that we've had just good player after good player in the past decade, but we went from Mike Sellers, who to me could go in the Redskins Ring of Fame,
possibly,
and now we have Darrell Young, who's probably the same caliber fullback.
I think so. I mean, that Sellers was bigger than Darrell Young, of course.
Different types of players, but I think they're the same quality type of person.
And Darrell Young really forced Mike Sellers off the roster because he was so good,
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, Sellers was also almost 40.
Yeah. I mean, it was time for him to go, but Darrell Young was Sellers' replacement is my point. And, I shudder to think what our special teams would be like without Darrell Young out there. It's ugly now with him,
Yeah, no kidding. Unless we have any other concluding thoughts about this Jaguars game.
We do have one minor concluding thought. What did we see in the return game against the Jaguars? My thought is not much.
Nope.
No, not much.
I think we're going to be searching for a returner all season.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, the thought was to maybe throw Crowder back there, and he was out again this week, right?
I don't know why Crowder was out. He should have played, I think, unless he wasn't healthy.
It was a hamstring thing, I thought.
Was it?
It was like a sore hamstring. Nothing to be too concerned about, but enough to keep him sidelined for this game. So I don't know. I think, not much out of the return game, but frankly, I don't think we've seen much out of it throughout the entire preseason.
No, we haven't.
Or throughout the last couple years, frankly.
Our special teams has been as bad as I can remember for, 3 years now? 4 years now, maybe?
Yeah.
Well, they were historically the all-time worst special teams unit in Shanahan's last season.
Yeah, that's just an embarrassment.
they set records for how bad they were.
Right. And we've continued to lose people from special teams throughout this preseason, too.
Yeah, and they were actually a little better, I think, last year, but they've lost.
They went
guys.
from god awful to just awful last year.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, pretty much.
0% to a 50, but a 50 is still a failing grade.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if we can get the ball consistently to the 20, whatever.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking
for. Can you
for.
guys even think when the last time we had a really good return guy was? I mean, do you have to go all the way back to Brian Mitchell?
Mike Nelms. No, yeah, Mike Nelms was before.
Brandon Banks for his one season.
I mean, I guess you could say when Rock Cartwright was returning kickoffs,
Rock Cartwright was
okay.
solid. I think the last elite guy we had was Mitchell. Brandon Banks had a very short period window of 4 games, maybe where he was probably an elite returner, but then he hurt his knee, and that was kind of it for him.
I think it was a little more than 4, but it was under half a season.
Yeah.
And then he got stabbed.
Mitchell certainly is the guy. If you go back in the Redskins history, Mitchell and Mike Nelms are the two that kind of stick out.
Right?
I this is off on a tangent, but it makes me wonder. I've often wondered why Brian Mitchell has not gotten more Hall of Fame consideration. I think he's the all-time yardage leader for.
He still is.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But I don't know. The Peter Kings of the world don't like us, so we don't get a lot of love on the Hall of Fame consideration.
Well, he would have to lie and say he'll go in as a Giant or an Eagle or something.
Well, they could sign him for one day. I mean, they could take care of that.
Well, no, I mean, but he played for the Giants and the Eagles.
Yeah, but the team could, sign him for a one-day contract, and he would retire as a Redskin. That part would be we could take care of that.
I think they did that. I think he did retire.
Oh, did he? Well, then if he did, then he would go in as a Redskin.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, I mean, we need a returner. I don't know if we've solved the problem this year. Andre Roberts looked really good and really bad. Chris Thompson looked okay. Who else was back there? Seemed like there were 4 or 5. Rashad Ross returned a couple, I think. He didn't do much. Really, none of them did much except the one, all 4 games except the one returned by Roberts. That was really, the punt return was really good, which happened after the fumble,
Right.
So.
Right.
And him and the running back Thompson. They both had really bad returns.
I think we're going to be experimenting with those positions, it looks like, for a while.
Yeah.
Again.
Oh, I think so.
Again.
Definitely.
And it's not,
we'll see how it goes when everyone's healthy.
It's not going to matter unless we have good blocking anyway. So.
Yeah.
Amen. Well, with that, let's conclude the game recap. Let's go into talking about some of these cuts. Wanted to get your quick takes on it.
Let me give everybody the cuts that have been announced thus far.
No huge surprises.
No, as of this broadcast, this is who we have. Wide receiver Colin Lockett, wide receiver Reggie Bell, linebacker Sage Harold, tight end DJ Williams, safety Akeem Davis, center Austin Reeder, running back Mac Brown, offensive lineman Tyler Larson, offensive lineman Jacoby Cofield, tight end Jerron Ham, linebacker Terrence Plummer, linebacker Houston Bates, running back Trey Williams, and then we have Breland suspension, so that's 14. We have 8 spots left. I have a couple more notes here. The local beat writers, Kime and Jones, etc., seem to think that Larson, Ham, Bates, and Williams are probably practice squad candidates from what they've heard. And I saw that Trenton Robinson tweeted a few minutes ago during our broadcast that he had made the team. So congratulations to Trenton Robinson.
Congratulations to Trenton Robinson.
Congrats.
It looks like there are 8 more spots to be cut in the next couple hours here this afternoon. We're recording this, folks, on a Saturday afternoon. The team has to get this done a little later today.
Yeah.
Any surprises on that list to you, Steve?
The one that sticks out, obviously, is Trey Williams, because he showed a lot of potential. He just is. It's one of those. You always hear about the numbers game. He's a victim of the numbers game because we just can't keep 4 running backs and a fullback. We just can't. So he showed a lot of promise on many other teams. I think he would have made the roster, but you have 3 guys ahead of him that all deserve to be on the team. So I think he's going to be on our practice squad, hopefully, unless he gets stolen. And we'll probably see. If injury history is a guide, we will see him at some point, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean he had some solid play there, but it's. He plays running back, and running back's kind of that dime a dozen position where you can go in with 5 guys, and they'll all be able to play at the NFL level. It's merely a matter of who's the best of that group,
Right.
The one that stuck out to me is ham, and maybe it's just because
Yeah.
I love ham as a food, so why wouldn't I love ham as a,
He's a ham fan.
tight end? But the real reason I think he kind of stands out is he was probably the biggest target we had for the passing game, height-wise.
Yeah.
And
Big boy.
So this leaves us with no one who's really going to be that 6'5" target in the red zone that I know of.
Yeah, I mean, you still got Jordan Reed, who's pretty tall, right?
Yeah, Jordan Reed's got 6'3" or something like that.
Something like that. I mean, he's big. He's not huge, but he's probably big enough.
Yeah.
I agree with you, though. I thought Ham, in the little play we saw from him, looked pretty good.
I think it just tells us that the team's going to sign another tight end.
I think it
Probably.
does, too. It does, because...
I think we'll sign one, and I think that next year that'll be a big target of the draft.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because nobody pretend that sorry, Sean, but let's nobody
good.
pretend that Jordan Reed is going to play 16 games. Okay, he's not.
Oh, no.
He won't. His hamstring seems to be made of spaghetti noodles. So he's going to be great. When he's out there, but I have zero confidence that he's going to not get injured again.
Move Robert Griffin to tight end. That'll be the plan.
Yeah, move Robert Griffin to tight end, move Jordan Reed to quarterback. He played. I always wondered.
Switcheroo.
I always wondered how he played at quarterback. Why don't we ever see that from Jay Gruden's? He loves the trick plays. He ran that one play against us when he was still with Cincinnati, where Dalton lined up as a wide receiver and caught a pass.
Shanahan did that with Griffin in 2020. Remember?
I remember.
And
We
then he
all
got
held
hammered.
our breath.
Yeah.
That was a terrifying play.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I sorry, not to get off on a tangent there. I agree. I was a little sad and disappointed with Ham.
A flea flicker where Jordan Reed gets the ball, fakes a pass, then gives it to Brandon Scherf, who then passes it
Do
to
it.
Jordan Reed.
Do it.
That sounds like a
They'll never
playground
see it
play
coming.
if I ever saw. The other couple names that stuck out on the names we know about so far, at least, are Houston Bates has had a really good preseason. Robbie was pretty high on him, and for me, Akeem Davis. Just because I've always liked that guy.
Me too.
I think he's been great. I think Akeem was just a victim of injury more than anything else. He didn't really have much of a chance to prove his spot this year.
I think if he gets healthy, you'll see him in the NFL again.
I hope so.
I don't think he's ever going to be a starter for anybody, but he has that special teams good backup value,
He has the physical attributes to be a starter, though. He's got the size, he's got the strength. He's a burner. I don't know if people realize he runs like a 4.4 40. I think if he develops,
I didn't know that,
he's
actually,
a real
no.
burner. So I think if he develops, he could be good for someone. Just probably won't be us, because I think he played. I saw a stat that I think he was active in 13 games last year.
Yeah, so he can't be on a practice
Right. The
squad
rule
anymore.
is 9, I believe. So he is not eligible for the practice squad for us. So he is in fact gone.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
All the others I think are fairly expected. Reggie Bell was a standout, but he's another guy that's a victim of the numbers game. We just can't keep 7 wide receivers. So Reggie Bell hopefully will get picked up by somebody too, because he showed I think he was an NFL receiver.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. And as far as Bates goes, it definitely sad to see him go, but Jeff Coates been playing really well. I loved his swimming.
Well, Bates
you
might see Bates on the practice squad. I mean, the beat writers said that Bates is a candidate for the practice squad.
Yeah, I heard that too. I just, I kind of hope that's not what happens. I like him a lot, and I thought he's played really well, and I loved his sack celebration. I'd love to see that during the regular season.
Our seventh round center, what was his name again?
Ryder.
I think he should be on our practice squad. I think we need a actual center on this team developing.
Well, of course,
That's the
Larson
only-
Larson is the other one who was the center, and they said looks like Larson is the practice squad candidate.
Okay.
So,
well, I just think this team needs to start planning on having a center of the future.
I think you're right. The Laribus era can't continue on indefinitely in this.
And I realize that I am not the one to comment about Laribus, because I've spewed so much hatred about him over the years. So I'd like to ask someone who's
It's all right. It's all right. we all kind of.
So I like to ask two people who are maybe more objective about Josh Laribus than I am. What did we really see of him as the backup center this preseason?
Well, he didn't snap the ball over anyone's head.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's the biggest sin you can make as a center is when you see a center
Bad snaps.
snap a ball in a shotgun over somebody's head, and he didn't do that. So I'm going to give him that much credit.
Yeah, I agree. You didn't see any cataclysmic playing, but you certainly didn't see anything that made you think he was some sort of a...
He's not an impressive blocker.
Exactly.
He's very average at best at blocking.
Yeah, at best. So, you know what, though? If we can finally get some production out of this guy after years of just nothing, God bless him.
Yeah.
If he contributes anything, that'd be better than what he's done.
Well, I think this is the last year of his contract, right?
Surely.
I'd have to look it up. But
It's got to be by now.
yeah, he's got to be in year 4. So.
Well, let's let that thing ride out. Let's keep Lichty healthy, and let's get through this season. Beautiful. All right, well, that was the game recap. We talked a little bit about cuts as well, and now we have an extremely exciting interview to present you with. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Our guest today is a Redskins legend, a 1983 Super Bowl winning tight end. In his post-football life, he's held down gigs at ESPN, the Big East Network, the ACC, and CBS Westwood One Radio. You can catch him now on ESPN 980's Inside the Locker Room alongside Scott Jackson and Brian Mitchell, and on ProView Magazine, as well as a sideline reporter at Redskins games. So please join me in welcoming Rick Doc Walker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
It's a real honor for us, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge honor. We're so happy to have you on. Listen, we really wanted to pick your brain right up front about your playing days. So, I mean, the first thing I wanted to ask you is, back then in 82, 83, the team seemed like it was positively bursting with personality. You had the Hogs, obviously, where we get our name, the Fun Bunch, the Smurfs, all these things that have since become iconic. So when you look back, what is it that created that type of team culture, do you think?
Just a real closeness. We had great teammates. The city, our fan base was just outrageous. And so you wanted to please them. At that time, it was pretty big money. So you actually had to win. The more you won, the more you made. And so we were very focused on winning because you just made more money if you won. So it was a real exciting time.
I didn't know that, actually, that it was pay per win kind of deal.
Yeah.
Well,
That's great.
if you remember, if you listen to Super Bowl 17, Joe Theismann, right before we broke for the kickoff, he didn't say, the ring. He said $70,000, and we knew if we won, you won $70,000 per player.
Wow.
Our whole emphasis throughout the playoffs was to win more money every week.
Wow.
That'll get anybody motivated.
Yeah, I would take that deal.
Well, these guys now they have to take a pay cut.
Sure.
The playoffs, so it's a different game.
Yeah. So what is it that you think, is there anything that Jay Gruden can do to help create that kind of culture now? I mean, I have to expect, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that type of culture seems like it could equate to better play on the field, right?
You just have to have better players.
Yeah.
I mean, their problem is that they just haven't been deep enough in talent, and they can change. When you change head coaches, you change schemes, you change coordinators.
Mm-hmm.
We were 4-3 for forever. Then you go to 3-4 defense. Now you have to change the type of people you bring in.
Yeah.
We were special teams leaders. Now they're among the worst.
Right.
It just comes down to if they they have really good players now. They've really upgraded their team. But without offense, it's very difficult to win in this league now. So you got to keep getting first downs. Otherwise, you just wear your defense out. We had some good players, but they just stay on the field too long. They don't convert third downs enough.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, just too inconsistent. And so if you're in the bottom category on third downs and you're in the bottom category in scoring, you're just not going to win.
Well, Rick, I'm the oldest. This is Steve. I'm the oldest of the bunch
Steve.
here, and I'm old enough to have sat in the stadium in RFK and watched you guys play. And what I remember most was that we fans always knew that, A, the Hogs were going to punch somebody in the mouth every week, and B, we were either going to win or make them pay for winning. So what is it about that team that you guys had that we've been missing out of this franchise for so long now?
Theismann, Riggins, Monk. I mean, you're talking about that line. So there's one guy in the Hall of Fame on that line, should be two, and Jacoby. When you look at how long they played together and the consistency and the three quarterbacks that Joe led to Super Bowls, but for us it was Theismann who took every snap of every play and every practice until he was hurt. So you had a guy there who was a great leader. We had a very simple, well, the scheme wasn't simple, but the basis of it was when you run first, which our team now is, and they are committed to being run first team. Now you can start stabilizing it, and they've got the linemen to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 2 number ones on our line now. And so it just, it really does take you about 3 years. And now, as I say that, we have a new defensive coordinator, Joe Barry, who I like. We have a new scheme. Now they're not reading and directing. They are attacking up front. So when we play the Dolphins, first time we'll get a chance to see our defense, which is different now. But we also have better players. The secondary has better talent. Thin at corner. But we just got better people, so I expect better results.
Hey, Rick, you town on the line now. Are we finally building a Hogs for the 21st century here? What do you think of Sheriff and Moses on the right side?
Well, they're young puppies, man, but they will bite. They will bite you. And you just can't expect them to be polished, although Martin, who was a rookie with the Dallas Cowboys, who Coach Callahan mentored, he was the best guard in football last year, and he was a rookie. Joe Jacoby and Russ Grimm were rookies. Mark May was a rookie. We had young guys, too, so they just got to play. Now, unfortunately for Sheriff, your first matchup, he's got to deal with Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah.
That's a test.
Ed Simmons, when Eddie came in the game against Philadelphia, we were at the vet, he had to deal with Reggie White. You always have to deal with somebody. Mm-hmm. And so J.J. Watt is the best defensive player in the league. His team's in last place. I mean, it doesn't really, one guy's not going to change the game, and Ndamukong Suh is not going to destroy the game. They're going to block him. And this kid, Sheriff, he's a big, strong stud. He just can't miss him. What you can't have are perfect no-hitters.
Right.
Where you close your eyes and that guy slips you and you don't stop him. Now, if Ndamukong Suh is Kirk Cousins full speed, then they're going to be taking Kirk out on stretcher. So as long as Sheriff, I was so happy that he got to play the Ravens because they have excellent defensive personnel. And as do the Lions. And the Lions, they hit him in the mouth. And he got better against the Ravens. And the Ravens are a very physical front seven. So I was happy that Sheriff got 2 looks. I want us to play people that are better than we are in the preseason. I hate it when we play cupcakes. I want to play somebody really good so our people can get better and they can see a better look.
Well, we definitely saw 3 good defenses in preseason, at least it felt like, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we wanted to ask you this. I particularly wanted to ask you this. One of the things you said on your show recently was that you didn't think that anything that happened in preseason would affect the lineup come week 1 of the season. This was before Kirk was named the starter. So real quick, what's your opinion on Kirk being named the starter, and how do you think he's going to perform?
Well, I think he gives them the best chance to win. Mm-hmm. And I like Colt McCoy as well. I think he can win with Colt running this offense. As long as we're going to run this offense that Jay Gruden has, those guys are better at it because they're better, more adapted to the drop-back system. Mm-hmm. And if he changed it and ran read option, Robert would have an advantage. But he doesn't have an advantage in the drop-back system, in my opinion. Yeah. So they're doing it. And Kirk gets the ball out of his hands. I mean, they didn't get sacked against Baltimore. Mm-hmm. And Baltimore hit him 3 or 4 times. Baltimore's excellent. They got Dumerville had 19 sacks. The other guy, Scruggs, had 10 or 11. They're murderous. Yeah. And they didn't get a sack. And I just think every game we saw with Griffin, I mean, he gets killed in the back. He holds the ball. If you hold the ball in this league, you'll have to eat it.
Yeah, or he'll run right into him too.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think is Robert Griffin's future with us and in the league?
I don't know. It's not cut and dry because you don't know how many side deals are being worked in the background. Mm. If he would decide to run the read option, and it's my opinion that he is the guy who is not wanted to run the offense that made him successful. He wants to learn something, which I don't mind that, but you can't experiment in the regular season.
No.
You got to be a backup. You got to work on your craft, and for all the things that they supposed to have worked on in the offseason, I didn't see any difference in his game. So, and it may be next year. It may be later this year. You never know when the light cuts on.
Sure.
It happens to people. Steve Young sucked when he got in the league, and with Tampa and the USF, he was horrible.
Doug
And he ended
Williams
up
had to
being
go around, right?
one of the best ever. But Doug was always a drop back quarterback. Doug didn't have to learn any principles. He just played on horrible teams. Steve Young was a runner at BYU, and he could throw, but he wasn't a pocket quarterback. Walsh,
I see what you mean.
yeah, after he watched Montana, he learned. He watched. He was on the bench. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. He didn't start as a rookie like Robert was Rookie of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a lot. I mean, he can run the read option, but he opted not to do it. So he's stuck with something now he's got to learn how to do. And if he's as tough as Kirk Cousins is mentally, he'll survive this and maybe get another shot.
You think Kirk Cousins is actually mentally tougher than Robert?
Yeah, I know he is.
Oh, yeah?
Kirk was humiliated last year. He threw all those picks, and they threw him on the bench. They buried him. I mean, Colt McCoy started, not Kirk. They put Kirk in a deep freeze last year.
Right.
Yeah.
And that kid is mentally a stud. You didn't hear him bitching about it. He just kept working. He got better, and he got better. And Colt McCoy got hurt, got hurt, lost his job. He just keep getting better, and that's what Robert's got to do.
Yeah.
Just go to work. You got Kavanaugh. You got a quarterback coach now. Go to work. Get off Twitter and go to work. Talent's there, but he's got to develop that drop back thing.
Yeah.
Hey, Doc, you've mentioned the coaches a little bit. Now, Steve, he hates Gruden. I've had a man crush on Jay Gruden since 2004, and I was watching arena football for a lot of the time for some reason, and I kind of fell in love with him then.
Yeah, he played with Tampa Bay. I did the first couple of Arena Bowl.
Did you? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. That's when I met Jay. I met Jay as a player. I did an Arena Bowl 3 or 4, what I can't remember, and then as a coach, he won it all.
Yeah, and that was, I think...
I've known him 20-some years, but...
What do you think of Jay? I mean, is he genuine when he's talking?
Mistakes. I think he made mistakes his first year. One, he tried to incorporate what Shanahan had with his personnel, which is that stretch.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not his offense, so he kind of had a hybrid. Second thing was he thought he could fix a guy, and then he realized he couldn't. And they were stuck with him. So he wasn't in control of his roster because he's a rookie head coach. And then he had, I don't think people realize how bad the personnel is until you get on top of it. And then before you know it, he's got a guy who gets hurt. He had to play 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah, you never win with that.
Year. Yeah, and then his defense had no pressure. And then the special teams, they had their problems.
Right.
And that's what happens when you come into a program and you're trying to build it. Now he's got 4 new coaches. I mean, who gets 4 new coaches in their second year?
Right.
That shows you how bad it was. But they fixed it, and they're fixing it. And they're, so that's what I give them credit for, the direction they're going in.
The rumor that's been floating around amongst the fan base, and I don't hate Jay Gruden, by the way, Alex. I disapproved of some of his coaching decisions. But the rumors that have been floating around in the fan base for a year and a half is that Robert Griffin's playing time is a result of Daniel Snyder dictating it. Do you have any insight into that?
Well, I mean, any owner has the right to suggest anybody he wants to play. I mean, that's what ownership brings with you. It will sabotage your football team if you carry it out. Once the player is illustrated or demonstrated, rather, he can't play at a real high level. And that's what happened. And so I think Jay tried. I think they all tried. But if you saw the games, I mean, I have nothing against Rob. I have nothing against any of them. I don't care who starts. I just want somebody that can help me win the game.
Yeah.
And I wanted Kirk out when he was playing because he was killing them with the interceptions. I wish that Colt, but he got hurt. If Colt hadn't been hurt going to Minnesota, I really believe we'd have beaten the Vikings that day. I really believe that would have been the team would have got on a roll if Colt hadn't been injured. But Colt was injured. They put Robert in, and
Well, our joke up here is that if you put Colt Colt McCoy's head on Kirk Cousins' body, you'd have the greatest quarterback the Redskins have ever seen, because Colt just doesn't quite have the same level arm that Kirk does, but that would be the perfect world for us.
Well, I'll tell you what, Joe Montana didn't have Steve Young's arm either. You don't need an arm. You need to know when to throw it. And that's what he does. I mean, there's a lot of guys with arms. Jeff George, Cutler's got a big arm.
Oh, you have to mention Jeff George.
Big arm notion. I want a guy with a big head. See, I want a guy with a big brain. Yeah, I don't want a guy with a big arm, because a big arm, there's too many guys that are successful without it. They just know when to throw it. It's all a matter of when you get out your hand.
Right.
And that's
we'd like
Colt
to not
does.
be reminded of the Jeff George era here in D.C.
Well, every time somebody mentions arm strength, I always go to that card. I go, really?
That's fair enough.
Did Gannon have a great arm? I mean, no, I tell you, he's got a great arm. Flacco's got a great arm. The kid in Indianapolis, Luck, has a great arm.
Sure.
There are guys with great arms and get great results. But I don't know where you put the kid in Seattle, Wilson. He's got a real good arm. Doesn't have to be great. He knows when to let it go.
Right.
And, you don't even need great receivers. I mean, Brady could win with us out there. It just depends on the system. Is the system built for your skill set? New England is built for Tom Brady. That's what they do. The Steelers are built for Big Ben. Everybody builds it for the quarterback. To me, if you're successful, they don't tell you we're going to run the West Coast. They don't tell you you're going to run this. They run whatever you run best, if that were me. And that's how I do it.
Awesome. Well, look, we have just two quick questions left for you. First of all, we'd be remiss not to ask you about the tight end situation on the team, being the great tight end that you are. Is that a major concern for you coming into this season? And what do you think of this new guy we picked up from Seattle today?
First of all, I'm a civilian. I'm batting 0. I couldn't give you a pregame warm-up. Yeah, no, don't give me thank you, but no thank you. No. I'm washed up. These guys, once you get out this game, it's just there's no way you could even consider trying to even get out there for warm-ups. I mean, this is a different game, and I love watching it, at field level. But I go, wow, no.
Now,
I don't know.
What about your cohort Chris Cooley, though? He seems to want to get back in there.
He's eager.
Well, no. I love his enthusiasm. But when you get at 32, 33 years old, you realize that it's over. And so you make a dash at it because Chris loves the game.
Oh, we don't disagree with that. And I loved Cooley. I have a signed helmet here sitting in front of me.
He loves the game, and he's a great competitor. And so he has nothing to lose. He has no ego. I got to play. He just wants to play.
Sure.
And unfortunately, to this point, no one has wanted to play with him. And so, it's just the way it is. He may get a call. He may not get a call, but he won't get a call from Washington.
No, I don't think. I think it's. Frankly, I love him in the booth anyway with you guys. It's not. It may. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that McEwen is not interested. Sure.
I asked him specifically. They're not looking for 33-year-old tight ends. He's looking for 23, 24. You have to at some point move on.
Yeah, you need a new era.
The Redskins had London Fletcher's last season, which is his worst season. They had Ryan Clark's last season. It was his worst season. You have to cut the umbilical cord. You win with young, fast freaks.
Right.
That's what you got to get, man. And so whatever happens, happens. I don't know what's going to go on with these guys they have. They got to learn the offense. They have Tom Compton can play. He can run block from tight end.
Right. Well, when you say fast, physical guys, Jordan Reed pops to mind right away, but he needs to stay healthy, right?
They all do. Nobody gets hurt on purpose.
Well, sure.
There's nothing that kid wants to do more than be healthy. But I'll tell you what, he's the best I've seen at his position here because he's just a phenomenally gifted receiver who's always open. If we could ever get Garcon and Jackson and he on the field at the same time with pass protection and a guy who will throw the ball so they can catch and run, they're gonna really be good.
No one can cover all three.
Right. No. But you got to have somebody to make a quick decision and get them the ball.
Right.
Cool. Well, we really appreciate having you on the show. It means so much to us. We wanted to ask you a quick question before you go. It certainly seems like UCLA is off to a good start the other day. They crushed UVA the other day. You got any words about the Bruins?
No, last year, I mean, I think they found out that UVA could challenge them in Charlottesville. I mean, they had to score 3 times on defense to beat them. Mike London's a terrific defensive person. And I'd like to see him be successful. I don't expect him to beat UCLA. And with this kid at quarterback, he should have scored the first pass of his life, should have been a touchdown, a bomb. And the kid Walker dropped it. But he is so poised. If they have him and he stays healthy, they're going to really be tough to beat, because when you have an elite signal caller and everybody else is back, they got an experienced team, but they haven't beaten Stanford. I don't think they haven't beat Stanford in 4 or 5. I can't remember the last time they beat Stanford or Oregon. And you got to be able to beat Stanford and Oregon. They've beaten SC 3 times. That's not the problem. The problem is Stanford and Oregon.
Yeah.
And UCLA, and I'll tell you what, Utah is excellent, and Arizona is damn good, and Arizona State is excellent. So this is not like the Big Ten, Big 12, even the SEC. They're top heavy. There's 3 or 4 dominant teams. Then the rest of it falls off. And SEC, because Ole Miss and Mississippi are really good, and Arkansas, I think, is coming back, and Tennessee's coming back. The SEC's loaded now. But the Pac-12 is competitive all the way to the end. And now Washington lost to Boise. So that happened. Stanford got beat.
Yeah.
But by the end of the season, they're just solid. You'll see Oregon State will play Michigan well. I think the Wolverines win. But Oregon State, good. They're all solid teams. Nobody really sucks.
Right.
Other than Washington State. And that's pretty decent for a conference. I mean, look at Penn State. I mean, they were gashed. And Temple, it's not a fluke. Yeah. Temple is very good. They got a ton of people returning.
Yeah.
So you always have to look and see, well, who's returning? If it's Utah or BYU, you're playing a semi-pro team. I mean, the average guy is 25. So
right.
You got to always remember, Utah and BYU, you're playing against grown men.
Right.
Because of the Mormon missions.
Yeah, because of the mission. So you can call it a mission, whatever it is. The guy's 2 years older than everybody else.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge advantage.
Well, I also think your old crosstown rival USC is coming back to prominence this year. They have a pretty good team here.
Oh no, they'll be good every year.
Yeah.
The only thing stops USC is probation.
Same with Penn State too, for that matter.
Probably well deserved. Hey, do you have any interaction today with your old UCLA program? Are you one of these guys that's on the sidelines and watching the games and talking to them?
No, I work on Saturdays. I work on Sundays. We travel on Saturdays. So, no, I mean, I'm in touch. I just talked to my roommate, Frank Stevens, linebacker. He went to the game. So I talked to guys that we played with, guys won Rose Bowl with. So they're there. I talked to them. But, no, it's hard to stretch from the East Coast to the West Coast. And if they played in a big game, which they really haven't, because they win the title game the first year, but I would be interested. I just would like to see him. It's a very difficult thing to win.
Right.
It's not easy. People take it for granted. Like, Maryland, which I have 2 kids that graduated from Maryland, play ball with Terps, and finally Maryland did what they're supposed to do. And, when they play Richmond, I don't care who it is, they should crush them. Because there's not a kid on Richmond's lineup that they lost the recruiting battle with. They got them all that they wanted. So finally, they put up 50. And that's what they ought to do. When they play out of conference, they should crush people, because they got a good program. It's just time to put the pedal to the metal and really take it to a level in which they've been there before. But with this metropolitan area we have out here recruiting-wise, there's so much football talent in our area between here and Pennsylvania, Ohio.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to almost purposely do something stupid to hurt yourself.
Last question here, since you're talking college football. What's your guess for the Final Four this year?
Well, I mean, it would only be a guess because, like,
We're only through
these
one
kids
week.
don't have preseason games, so
Yeah.
you don't know. Alabama is going to be in contention. Ohio State's going to be in contention. It's going to be I would think, just guessing, that I have to, until Oregon loses, then it's got to be Oregon. You have to think it's going to come out of the West.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hate to say power because there really is no TCU. I got to give TCU a lot of credit. I think they're finally a big boy.
Okay.
To where I have to say TCU is a big boy. And, Oklahoma, I don't trust them. They're really good, but they'll lose the game that counts. The Spartans are still rolling. The Wolverines will be back. But for this year, I think it'll come out of – and the other one is that the Auburn Tigers, if they, with Muschamp running the defense, they may be unbeatable because – their talent is on par. So is LSU. LSU will be around, but
Of course.
Auburn, if I had to, and all of this is a guess,
Sure.
it wouldn't surprise me to see them come out of there because just watching Alabama, again, powerful front nine, the quarterback was good, and they need great because they don't have that kid at wide receiver this year. And again, it's so by 5 games from now, they'll make me eat my hat. But for right now, just on the one look I saw, I go Auburn. Because Auburn runs that fast offense with fast people. And with Muschamp on defense, he gets that thing going with the athletes they have. Checkmate.
Unstoppable.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, you heard it here first, folks, and we will be interested to see how that all shakes out here at this point in the early season. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Rick. It's really a huge honor for us. Thank you so much.
This was a real pleasure for us.
Hogs always support hogs.
Yeah.
And there we go.
Thank you.
Give him a follow on
Thanks,
Twitter
guys.
at Rick.Walker.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
Thank you, man.
I don't even like playing Madden, much less having to watch somebody. Unless it's my kid who's up there playing Madden and he wants me to watch him, which isn't very often. It just bores me to tears.
So you're saying you don't love me and Robbie as much as you love your own sons?
It's close.
Because that's fucked up.
It's
That's
close.
fucked up, man.